Hey guys, what's up? This is False Bulls 123, and you might have noticed that I actually did try a little bit and make my bed, because I'm trying to be less of a lazy fuckboy in this day and time. Now, I know everyone's doing it, but I haven't done it yet, so I mean, fam, the market isn't saturated. Now it is, but it wasn't before. And so I've done a few booktubes on my booktubes. I've done a few book tags on my channel before, but I've never actually done this book tag before. I know it's really popular, and it's kind of like, a thing that everyone does. It is traditionally honest. Pretty sure that's not how it's pronounced. But I thought, I gotta do it. I gotta throw my hat in the game. And I'm just like, let's do it, fam. So, as you guys might know, there are generally 14 questions. I'm going to try to get through these real quickly. Mostly because I have still a lot of editing to do. I was debating with myself all week. Do I want to wait till I have all of the rest of my videos up? Or do I want to, just film it and then edit everything? And I figured, I already have all these videos I'm going to edit from, my daily quarantine and my wrap-up. And so I figured I might as well just film it all at once, edit it all at once, and then when I feel like it, publish it. So, you're probably going to see this sometime around mid-July. But by that point, but I'm filming this, sometime near the end of June. So, there you go. I know I ruined it. You peeked behind the curtain. You just saw me being Dr. Oz. The Wizard of Oz. There we go. That's the reference I was going for. That's right. I'm not a fit geriatric. I'm secretly a charlatan. Who knew? Anyway, guys, I'm going to stop making dumb jokes and actually get into, the content. So, first question is, the best book I've read this year. This was, it was a little tricky. I have a horrible time actually picking books. And I realize if you've just watched my wrap-up, a lot of these books are going to be repeated, but hopefully there's enough new content for you not to be staved off of absolute boredom. And I'm probably going to say My Life in France by Julia Child. What did I love about this book, guys? Okay. So I really love food writing. You know this. I'm a cook. Somebody just has a succinct and delicious, description of pork loin. My mouth's watering. I want to make pork loin now. Yes, get it, fam. But I loved it from because it's a food writing thing. But basically, it was a story about, a person I really admire, a celebrity I really, care about, emotionally, But it was also a story I can relate to very deeply, because not only does it mirror in some places my own culinary history, but it also, resounds to me from an emotional viewpoint. As a cook, I can definitely have a lot of moments where I relate emotionally to Julia Child's journey, and in other moments, I'm inspired by Julia Child's journey. And so it was just a really great beginning of reading, another cook's story, another sort of memoir about food writing, and just another sort of experience regarding food. And so it inspires me, and so, reading her story, really getting in deep with, just what she wanted to accomplish with her cooking, really inspires me in my own goals for my, career and life. So I really loved it. It was funny at times. It was inspirational. It was so well written, and it had a very wholesome beat to it, just because Julia Child is a vivacious, amazing person, and I'm really sad that, she died in my lifetime. Other writers / people I like who died in my lifetime was Ray Bradbury and Pat McManus. Third person you probably don't know. He was a humorist. So let's move on to question number 2. Best sequel you've read so far this year. I haven't really read any sequels, and, I feel kind of like shit for saying that. I don't know why. I mean, it's, not somebody gonna be like, suck to be you, asshole, but it's I really read only one sequel this year. That was Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. That was literally a happenstance. It was just lying around my mom's house, and I was bored. And I'm thinking, isn't this my book? Why is it in my mom's place? But I was bored, so I read it. Besides that, I haven't read any sequels. All the books I've read have either been the first book in the series, or they have been standalone novels. And so I don't have anything to answer for this. And I'm really trying to think back, do I normally read, a lot of series? And I really don't. Unless it's a series that I'm super, super into, like Percy Jackson, or the Mysterious Benedict Society, or the Miss Polyfax series. Those are really the only 3 series I remember that I know that I've reread the sequels multiple times. Besides that, I don't really read a lot of series. Sometimes I'll find a series and I'll be like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Other times I'll buy a book and I just dropped my notes. Hi. Okay, hello to me running a YouTube channel. Anyway, or I'll just I'll find a series I think is really good and then I'll just never pick up the sequel. But it's I don't read a lot of sequels and I know that sucks. So moving on, I guess. I ain't got anything for you. Sucks to be you. Okay, so the next 2 questions are about new releases. And I've been trying my best to understand book release schedules like a nerd. But it's hard because a lot of books are really vague about when they're going to be released. And sometimes I'll find an article that'll be 14 new releases coming this year. And then I'll actually go and check some of them. And they were published last year or something. And I'm just well, that's not a new release book website. Jeez. But these books were, yay, conjugations, but released this year. So I know I'm in the right this time. So number 3 is a book that you want to read that got released this year, in the first half. And so I picked The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Alexander. Hopefully that is her name. And basically it's the story about these 2 kids named Vincent and Paul. They are siblings. And I say kids even though they are adults for the majority of the book, I believe, who essentially deal with the fallout of an international Ponzi scheme. The book was basically based off of the story of Bernie Madoff, who, if you don't know, was an American financier who created one of the largest Ponzi schemes, which is essentially a scam. That is what a Ponzi scheme is. It is a financial scam. He made gajillions of dollars and many people lost their life savings because they invested in a fake investment, essentially. And so I'm not going to explain what a Ponzi scheme is because you have the power of internet, but I just thought it sounded really interesting. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was when I first read the synopsis because I just really heard the phrase hotel, and I like hotels as a sort of setting. So I'm okay, that sounds good. I just added it to my cart, but it seems interesting. I know let's see, Alexander. That sounds weird because it's a masculine name, but that's her last name. Anyway, I noticed that she also wrote Station 11, which I've heard a lot of interesting things about, and so I want to check it out, see if it's good. It's on my hold, so eventually I'll read it sometime this year, and it'll be good. Next up, number 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So I know I won't shut up about it because I'm not good at knowing book releases and I'm a one-trick pony. But this is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I was rereading some of the copy, and he got described as the Jordan Peele of horror literature. Don't know who said that. Publication who I shamelessly stole that quote from. You're welcome. Have some free press from your unnamed and uncited source. Basically, which I thought was such a good sort of blurb or whatever you call it, because one thing I really am interested in Jordan Peele's writing is just his very I guess Afrocentric horror. All of those ones have a lot of themes about racial identity and I guess racism, and so it's I love that shit. I love you have an exploration of race and horror literature, and I'm just basically Stephen Jones is kind of trying to do the same thing but with Native American and indigenous I guess heritage. And so a book centered around I hope the Native American is the correct term. If there is a more correct or more, I guess, I don't know, better way to put it, please let me know. I don't wish to offend, but at the same time, that is the verbiage that I understand to be correct. Anyway, but essentially, a book set from, a Native American perspective and dealing with the cultural heritage and horror and mythology of that sounds super fucking awesome. Don't say this enough, but Native American mythologies, of which there are many thousands. I should clarify the Native Americans, even are not monolithic in the slightest. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of tribes, each with their own very unique cultures and mythologies. As even with similar mythologies, they are just so diverse and so different, and they're all really amazing. And so I love just learning about all these different cultures and mythologies. That initially lived in the Americas because, like, Native American tribes had such a rich culture. And honestly, colonialism sucks. That's all I have to say about that end. But basically, I'm just really excited to read this book because it's an interesting setting and it's like a voice that I have not had any chance to read in literature before, and I want to read that shit because it sounds so good. Anyway, number 5 is, what was my biggest disappointment? So, I am quite disappointed in a lot of things. Usually food, but sometimes books. And I didn't want to do one of my DNFs for this question just because I feel like that's kind of cheating. Just because, like, I didn't read a book doesn't mean that, like, I should shit on it more just that other people don't read it, because I don't think that's fair. I'll tell you why I didn't like a book and why I put it down. But I don't want to, like, put it as, like, my biggest disappointment. Because maybe if I, like, kept reading it, it would have been amazing and it would have turned around or something, But, like, maybe all those, like, problems I saw in the beginning got, like, called out, like, answered. But I didn't, like, know that because I didn't read it. So I don't feel, like, comfortable using a DNF for this question. Wow, Ryan, you keep telling me what you don't want to use for this question. Why don't you tell me what you did use for this question? Thanks, inner critic me. And that was Have You Seen Me by Kate White. I also, not that anybody cared, figured out why I kept calling her Amy White, and that was the name of my barber in Coos Bay. Weird, like, misnomer, not the right word, malapropism, but there you go. Fun fact about me. Also, if you live in Coos Bay, she's, like, really great. Shout out. There you go. Anyway, what did I, like, why was it a disappointment? Basically, the story is about this woman. She's a financial advisor, and she essentially has a dissociative fugue state, which makes her forget a week of her life, and she's trying to figure out what's happening. At the same time, the events of her life might be connected to a murder that she was a primary witness to when she was very young. She didn't witness the murder, but she discovered the body, and she was basically a key witness into the investigation. Clarification. And so, like, I think, okay, that's cool. There's, like, I always love it when there's, like, a prior, like, crime happening. And so, like, maybe, like, is it connected? And if not, like, how does it tie in? But I also love the idea of missing time as a sort of thriller notion. I love the idea of a character who's, like, not able to remember what happened. And, like, did I hurt somebody? Did somebody hurt me? Did I see something that I don't remember but other people know that I saw? And therefore I'm a, like, target. There's so many good ways that that type of story can play out. Oh, it didn't play out, honey. Oh, it did not play out. I got the most whiniest, most nervous Nelly-esque character that I could ever imagine. For a woman that is so financially comfortable that I can no longer relate to her. And let me just say something. For a woman that is so frugal and fiscally responsible, she drank a whole lot of bottled water, okay? I can't trust somebody that's telling me how to save my money, but then pay $60 for a fucking bottle of Perrier, okay? That is just my own go-off queen moment. But that's not the point of this book. I wanted to complain, like, I dislike people who, like, say that they save money and then they buy bottled water, because literally bottled water is the height of consumerism, and it is so fucking tree, it pisses me off. But once again, let's move on from that point. It's just, the whole thing is her worrying about, like, dumb bullshit drama that doesn't affect the plot. The plot doesn't go anywhere. And there's literally all of these, like, high-octane action segments which completely just ruin the pacing and have no impact on the story. By the point, like, people are trying to murder her because this is a thriller, you're like, oh no, don't kill her. I don't want to see her, like, die. But you kind of do. Because if that happened, the book would be over. And yeah, I hate the book sucked. It pissed me off at the end of it. Like, it started off strong. I'm like, okay with Zesty. But then it just goes fucking nowhere, and it pissed me off. And that's why it was a disappointment. So next question was biggest surprise. And I was thinking about this, like, while, like, trying to figure out what to answer these questions for. And I was thinking, I'm just, like, surprised. Because I didn't want it to be, like, a bad surprise, because I just had a disappointment. So I wanted to be, like, a positive light, because you can, like, take this question in so many different ways. And so I figured, what was a book that surprised me? That's how I'm interpreting this. And so I thought, okay, thriller, and I thought, gotcha. Turn of the Key, Ruth Rare. really loved the book. I wasn't like, super into like the first book I read by her, The Woman in Cabin 10, but I really liked Turn of the Key. And it has some twists near the end of it that were just like, what? And then you were like, what again? Because there's like a bunch of them. And it was zesty. I loved it. Like, there was just, if that was like my first introduction to Ruth Ware, I'd have like fucking picked up any other book that like she wrote because it was so good. And as a thriller, it really excited me and really just like completely blew me away. I love twists. I love surprises and mystery and thrillers. Like, I'm an Agatha Christie ass bitch, but it's like, it was great. I love the book. It had there was this like twist in it near the ending, which just like totally blew my mind. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, I have never thought about that. And then it punched me in the gut because it was really sad. And I ain't going to tell you nothing else about it because you need to read it. Okay. You just need to read it. Okay. Okay. So moving on, we got ourselves some favorite new authors. Oh, whoa. And yeah, I was an indecisive little bitch. So I chose 4 because I love you and they were all really great. And there's a lot of authors I really enjoyed or books I really enjoyed. But I thought to myself, okay, favorite new author to me means an author whose book I absolutely loved, which I would want to own or recommend to somebody. And that if I knew that they had made another book, I would immediately want to read it because I liked it that damn much. And so I picked 4. So first off, Gillian Flynn. I read Gone Girl by her. Thought it was super awesome. I'm just like, this is what people like. This is the edgy thrillers that I want to read. Next up, Casey McChristian. She wrote some gay-ass shit, and I'm just like, this is some good gay shit. And I'm like, I want to read more of that. If you don't know, she wrote Red, White, and Royal Blue, which everyone loves, and I agree. Next up is Awaki Emezi. They are a non-binary person of color writer, and they're super awesome. I read Fresh Water by them, which is a bit autobiographical as far as I understand. It was so good. I want to read more of that. Like, that is a just author I am absolutely loving, and I want to read all of their work because it's so, like, they have a really diverse voice. They have a lot of themes that I just have not read from that perspective. And they have, I guess social commentary would be the correct phrase, that I just want to get all up in, I just want to get all up in that social commentary because it is zesty and defined, and I love it. And the last was Celeste Ng, who is very, very popular right now. She just released Little Fires Everywhere, which is now its own show. Everyone is losing their shit over it. I have not seen it. Yeah, so it does not surprise me. I have never been one to let me just get all up in this hype. Which, as a content creator, you think I probably should do that, I should be with the zeitgeist, but bitch, I'm behind. Anyway, really love their work. She wrote Everything I Never Told You. I read it this year. I really liked it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to mention that later in this video, so stay tuned. Anyway, loved all those authors. Want to read them again. They were super chill. Really awesome. Check them out. Next up, newest fictional crush. I ain't got one. Don't get me wrong. Oh, I ship. I'm a ship hard. I see 2, heteronormative people in a procedural crime drama, and I'm just like, girl, when you gonna get that dick? Boy, when you gonna get in that pussy? I am down for that. I'm gonna be reading some fan fiction if there's fan fiction of it, but I ain't got no crushes, because it's all the books I read, either all the cute chicks were super badass, battle warriors, and I'm just I'm not super romantically interested in you as a person. I think you're super chill, but I ain't trying to get with that. Or they're already in a really nice committed relationship, and it's just I like watching you two look all lovey-dovey at each other, I haven't really read any books where there's a super cutesy person I want to get with that, So I ain't got no fictional crush yet. Sorry, fam. Honestly, I'm literally looking at all my books over there, and I can't think of a single fictional character which I'm just yeah, that hot. We talking TV shows, I'm just hey, but books, nah, ain't my style. Next up was a number 9, newest favorite character. So, this was a little hard because I don't really have, there's a lot of memorable characters in the books I've read this year, but there wasn't a bunch of ones that I super wanted to rave about. But I finally settled one. It was Star Carter from The Hate You Give. Basically, I love her. She's such a cool character. she has a really, like, interesting personality. She has a really interesting, just, like, life and, like, this the world she's in. And Angie Thomas just has a fantastic way of just building up her characters, of creating a very fleshed out contemporary world that you really feel at home in, even when, like, fucked up shit is happening around them. And so I really like Star Carter. She was just, like, a very outspoken young adult protagonist. And I'm just like, I just want to see that girl succeed, I want to see her get shit done. And I'm just like, Star, we in your corner. We stand, okay? I love, like, she was just a great character. Anyway, guys, so I'm trying to hurry this up a little bit just because, my phone is getting, like, a bit low and I don't want it to die. Why do I always film these things when my phone's low? Jeez, Ryan, you know what you need? Forethought. Anyway, guys, the next question is a book that made me cry. So, I don't cry a lot when it comes to, I guess, like, books. So I like think about this for a little bit. But then I basically thought of 2 books that would fit that criteria. So, go me! First up was, let's see. Sorry, Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. There's just this really great scene, about 3/4 of the way through the book where you actually get into the point of view of one of the characters that, like, a character at the beginning of the book that literally has been dead since the entirety of the book. And so it's just really heartbreaking. There's this amount of dramatic irony as, like, you're watching her thought process and, like, the reasons, like, why this stuff is happening. And, like, the answer to the question that you've been wondering since the beginning of the book is just so fucking sad. Especially, like, just given, like, the context that I sound like a little bitch a little bit, There is another death scene in, and I'm like, well, like, spoilers, but, like, sorry, this isn't asking me, like, what's sad. I'm just like, bitch, what's sad to you? People die, The other book that I cried a little bit on was, give me a second, How to Lose the Time War, and I didn't write down the names of the authors, but I'll put, like, the book over there, and their names are on it. But basically, there's just the scene about midway through, which is kind of just this turning point for the story. And it's so sad, especially just because, like, of the way that the book is written, that, like, when you're reading this, you're like, you don't want to read this, but at the same time, it's hard to explain if you haven't read the book. Basically, the more, like, the character is reading this letter, the more they are dying. And so the fact that they're relating what this letter says is a marker of their death. And so you're literally, in a sort of vicarious way, witnessing their slow, agonizing death. And it's so sad. Also, guys, don't worry. This has time travel shenanigans, so that's all I'm going to give you. But also read the book, it's fantastic, okay? Yeah, like, I cried a little bit over that. It's just, they were, like, just really sad, emotional moments. And, I ain't afraid to say, like, that, sometimes life is sad and you gotta cry a little. That is what it's called having healthy emotional health. That was redundant. Next up was a book that makes you happy, whenever it makes you feel alive. Now that I've referenced the Kooks, I picked whatchamacallit, Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McChristian. Like I said, this was some good, wholesome gay shit. And it was a lovely time, It had a really lovely, like, romance, there's just all this chemistry, and you really felt good for the characters, and you wanted them to succeed in life and just be fucking gay over there, And it's like, and on top of that, like, I'm reading, like, this world that, like, is sort of this, like, just to the side alternate timeline, and I want to live in that world, like, I want to get a badass Latina businesswoman in the White House instead of racist Cheeto man. And I said that last time, but it's like, it was just a feel-good book. It made me feel good inside. And I liked reading it. So it's like, Casey McChristian, thank you. So, let's see, next up is the most beautiful book that you've bought this year. So I'm going to tell you a big secret. So, like, I was thinking about it. I was tallying it up in my ledger. I was looking at my receipts. And guess how many books I've bought this year? I'll let you. I'm going to wait 5 seconds so you can make your guess. Don't worry. It is exactly 0 books. Honey, I can't afford no books. Look at me. Look at me. You think I afford books? Bitch, you crazy. And that's really the truth of it. I'm not the most consumeristic person. Well, I do enjoy buying things, but I don't really have a lot of money in my life for such frivolities, if you will. If I do buy books, it is generally very much a thrift type thing, and I just like paying 30 or 50 bucks for a singular book because, oh honey, I could buy myself a bean burrito for that. I could buy myself, assuming averaging out the prices, at least 30 bean burritos for that. And I can't say for certain that that one book, which, remind you, is 50 bucks, is worth at least 30 bean burritos. I'm just saying, honey. But, I am never one to be a quitter, and so I thought of 2 books that, a sitcom character in a bar trivia contest, I'm gonna cheat a little. And so I came up with 2 books for this prompt. So for a book that just had a really weird cover, and that's why I picked it up, I chose When You Write Alone, You Write with Bin Laden by Bill Maher. And I'm just like, what the fuck is this shit? And so I picked it up, and it's a book of political essays, and they're okay. But I just thought it was a really interesting, picture, because I'm just like, well, I don't write with Bin Laden. I don't, carpool, but, so I'm just like, what up with that? And so one thing that made the book interesting was just basically its uses of political posters as a way of discussing political thoughts. I'm like, okay, that was an interesting premise. Another interpretation of this question was a book that just had a really interesting visual direction. And I'm going to choose Illuminae, which has names and words, give me a second, by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. And it was spectacularly, visual-wise. It was essentially a very multi-layered epistolary, hard sci-fi, I don't want to say novel book, but I also have these really amazing segments of typokinetic poetry, I believe the phrase is called. So essentially in the matters of poetry is what you have concrete poetry, which is your standardized use of lines and regular print. But then you also have kinetic poetry, or kinetic typography is another term I believe is used around here, which is essentially when the words have a sort of life of their own. And so they vary in things such as font size, intensity, boldness, and the general way that they're actually printed on the page. So a good example of, off topic, a good example of kinetic poetry is, I believe it's called Blue Lipstick. It was a poetry collection I read once. That's a really great example of the premise. But essentially, Illuminae had segments where you were basically staring at these photos, but then there was this interplay of text along with it. And so there was a lot of movement to these pages, and it was very transcendental, if you will, to use a word that is a little bit big. So it's a really pretty book. And so I'm just like, I didn't buy either of these books, but they were both visually appealing in 2 different ways. So next up is, what books do you need to read by the end of this year? So that one was easy, and that is Will Write for Food by Diane Jacob. I talked about this a few times on my channel, and I just dropped it on the floor because I am an absolute klutz. But Will Write for Food is essentially a primer about food writing, and it covers a lot of different elements of it. For instance, I'm just flipping to the tables of contents here. It deals with food bloggers, freelance writers, restaurant reviewers, cookbook writers, and recipe writers in general, as well as a lot of discussion over, food writing as an art form and as a literary genre. And so Diane Jacobs basically has interviewed a lot of people throughout the course of it, a lot of food writers, and a lot of other people in the industry. And so this is basically a great primer to both the food writing industry and food writing as a practice in general. And so I got this as a part of a fire sale for my college, and I believe I'm looking to see how far through it I am. I'm about a third of the way through this. I've been reading this for about a year and a half now, and I just pick it up occasionally, and I really want to finish this sometime soon, I said I was going to finish it by the quarantine, and I made good progress, but there's still a lot of it that I want to get through. And that's mostly just because it's dense, it's a legitimate textbook, and so it's going to take me a while to actually absorb all of that good info. Last question of the evening is my favorite book community member. And so I'm not on Bookstagram like at all. Well, I post Bookstagram photos because like, I'm an aesthetical whore. But I'm not really like into the Bookstagram scene. I don't have it in my feed that much. I follow like maybe 2 or 3 booktubers, like, their channels. But generally my Instagram has 3 people on it. People I know, like either online or offline. ARGs, which sounds weird, but it's the truth. I follow pretty much all the Echo Rose accounts. And food. Either, like, chefs. I follow a couple, like, chef friends from college. I also follow, like, a few famous chefs. And I also, like, follow, like, I guess the baking side of Instagram and, trying to think, local restaurants. So, like, I follow, like, most of it is either, and photography, so I guess 4 categories. But I don't really follow that, like, Bookstagram as an aesthetic on my feed, so I don't really have anyone for that, because if I was going to choose one, it would just be the Instagram versions of, like, the booktubers I, like, listen to. I don't follow book blogs either. I have one blog, and I literally just read, like, horror blogs, and not even that, because most of the horror blogs I found barely post, and so, whatevs. Anyway, now that I've talked about, like, the places I don't follow, all of these are booktubers. They're all really big faves of mine. I've watched a good amount of their content, and I also tried to choose a pretty wide variety of, like, the ones I like to watch. So it says 1, but I chose 7 because I'm an indecisive bitch. There you go. And so in no particular order, here are... Oh, there's 8. My bad. No particular order, here are my 8 favorite booktubers. So first off, Reader Cindy. She's kind of the one that, like, got me into, like, Booktube at all. Because, like, I've always watched, like, I've heard, like, a few, like, Booktube videos. I had seen Crimson Rogue, like, Bash and Esion, but I didn't know it was, like, a thing, I assumed that, like, Booktube was mostly just, like, I guess, white British, like, 18-year-olds, like, talking about, like, really horrible, problematic romances. And I'm like, okay, that's good, but it wasn't something that I wanted to watch all the time. So, like, that was just my bias, obviously, like, I'm not saying that's what I think Booktube is now, but I had never, like, really seen any of the other Booktubers out there. And so Reader Cindy, like, I watched her ACOTAR series, and it was so good, and it was, like, so funny, and I loved it. I immediately subscribed, and I'm just, like, I love Cindy. Like, she is just one of my favorite Booktubers ever, and her shit is always so funny, and that's, like, why she's one of my favorites. But if we're being honest, like, she's my favorite, but, like, I want to spread the love, okay? Okay. Next up, Books with Lala. I just love her. She is a fun, fierce mom, and I like her videos. They're really inventive. I saw one person call her, like, the Sophia Nygaard of Booktube, and I'm just like, that's accurate. And I enjoy her content. It's really, really inventive, like I said just now. And so, like, it's just, there's so much, like, to see that I would never, like, think of, like, doing a Booktube video like that, and she does it, and it's great, and I love her. Next time is Bow Ties and Books. I really like the recommendations. They have a lot of really good recommendations, especially for, like, I guess, Black LGBT books, which I just never really see much of that intersectionality, and I really enjoy it. They also, my bad, like, discuss a lot of, I guess, non-binary representation in books, which I think is really cool. I have a few non-binary friends, which I think would be better with pronouns, but... So it's, like, it's really nice to see, like, a lot of book recommendation for that. I just also really enjoy the channel. They have a really great personality, and they're fantastic. Next up is Myona Reads. I like her stuff. She's pretty chill. I just like watching her videos because I like the way she talks. I like the way she, like, thinks about things. And a lot of the times for just YouTubers in general, the content isn't as important to me sometimes as really just their speech patterns, if that sounds weird. Since I mostly listen to YouTube. I don't really watch it as attentively as some might, And so, like, YouTubers and booktubers specifically that just have really, I guess, soothing speech patterns, or just, like, stuff that I would like. So I like how she talks, which is a weird, I guess, compliment, but it's true. It really is. It's one of the things that just... I was like, like the stuff she's just like she can be like, really soft and sensitive. I'm like, I enjoy that. Like, I like her I like her personality. I like the way she like says things and all of that. So we're gonna get off that and move on to Chandler Ainsley. She is if you don't know her, she's like mostly just like romance books, which I don't like. I've never really been much of a romance reader, but I like how she talks about things. Like she'll just be like, yeah, this is pretty fucking hot. There's some smut, and I'm just like, that's what I'm here for. And it's just she has a lot of really fun like vlogs. Some of my favorite vlogs is she's just like sitting in her car like eating food, and I'm just like, I love it. It's just like, and it works. And she just has a lot of really fun thoughts and like a lot of really interesting book recommendations that I would like never see because I don't pick up romance, but it's like they'll just like read this like she'll like tell me like this romance now. So I'm just like that sounds fun and zesty because I don't read romance, but I love rom-coms. Like rom-coms are literally one of my favorite movie genres, just because like this salt like usually it's enemies to lovers and then they bang and I'm just like what's not to love. And so next up is Dominic Noble, who if you don't know, this is the only guy YouTuber on my like list here, and I kind of like. And it sounds weird, but like I would like to like watch more male YouTubers just because almost every like booktuber I've seen has like really been like I guess a woman or non-binary or like something like that. So it's like it would be nice to like see like the thoughts, which I don't like think I'm not like particularly like put out about it since a lot of like I guess places are very male dominated. So it's nice to see a female dominated like area, but it's like at the same time like I like to like see at least a few more male perspectives in my feed, I guess. I don't know, like, but I really like Dominic Noble. He does more like the video essayist kind of booktube. He does a lot of I guess looks into genres or he talks about problematic content, which is my absolute shit. It's always just like, hey, I watched this like shitty Pureflix or like bad Netflix movie and like here's why it's like super like abusive, and I'm just like, let me get my popcorn, fam, because I love that shit. It's also just really funny, and he has like some really interesting like he'll like just like make some content that I would have never like thought of. Like he read a like a pickup artist book and like discussed like the problems with it, and I'm just like, ooh, zesty content, watch it, and then I did. And last up is Paperback Dreams, and I think I can't remember her name, but she's also one of my favorites. She's also the type of like I remember like watching her after video like a few times just because I'll just like it'll like come into like my autoplay and I'll just like watch for 45 minutes because it's a solid video. I love her personality. Like she does I'm pretty sure she does like a few like book recommendations with like her sister and stuff, and she's great. Like she's more like the introverted side of like the personality like booktuber spectrum, and it's a lovely time. She's just like these are the books y'all, and it's like. And I don't know, I think she's great. Like, I love her stuff. I love watching her videos. Like, as you can tell, like, all of these, I love them so much. They're great. I'll watch them all the time. I see a video and, like, I gotta click that, and I click on it. So, anyway, guys, this was probably, like, a trash video, like all my other videos, but this is actually a lot of fun, So, I've never done, like, this book tag in particular. I've never, like, kind of done a mid-year wrap-up. And I realized that, yeah, right, I literally just did a wrap-up, but it's like, everyone else was doing it, so I had to, and so I did it. And it was, like, a lot of fun, like I just said. Anyway, guys, I'm stumbling over my words, as you can tell, so I gotta get out of here. I just want to remind you guys, you can do a whole bunch of shit to help me grow my channel. Imagine that. Like, you got your trifecta. Onion, celery, and carrots. Oh, no, wait. That is Mirepoix. What I meant was you can like, comment, and subscribe. Also, you got a fourth bonus option, and no, it's not ham. It is, you can like share this video with people. Did you know that? Like, if you want, like, if you have a friend that's just like, yo, have you seen any new like vloggers / booktubers out there? And you're like, I know a dumb bitch that exactly meets that criteria. And that's me. So like, yeah, share with your friends. Anyway, guys, remember, wash your hands. Tell your loved ones you love them. Every day, do better and be a better person. And this is 4 + 1 to 3, and I'm signing out.